When we first start our personal growth journey or spiritual path, there's a concept called wake up. To become aware of certain aspects of yourself that you were not aware of before. Most of us are just asleep in life. We are not a part of life. We are not in approval of life. We are constantly trying to disassociate from it and not actually be involved. And so when we begin our journeys and we begin to wake up, it can feel very abrasive and very intense and very hard because the things that we are starting to feel in our physical bodies, we've been asleep to. Part of waking up is recognizing how you're doing it, recognizing that you are forcing yourself to be somewhere you're not, where you're demanding yourself to be somewhere you're not, where you are like, I need to be alert, I need to be awake, I need to be on all the time, instead of realizing that you're still probably a little asleep, that you're probably a little bit slower and lower to the ground, but instead you force this external idea on yourself that, oh, well, I'm on the spiritual path now. I need to be enlightened. Honey, the sun hasn't risen yet. Let your body wake up. Allow yourself to calibrate to every single moment of life. See, the art of waking up is the art of your awakening, and recognizing that it can be abrasive and it can be painful and it can be intense if you're not actually open to it being any different, if you're not actually surrendered enough to let life guide you, if you're not receptive and open to how your journey is unfolding, it will feel intense. It will feel abrasive. And more so, if you are guarded, if you are walled, then any attempt for life to guide you is going to feel like an attack on those walls. One of the ways that I first kind of started looking at my own awakening in this way was looking at my personal journey path and looking at how much turmoil my life was requiring to crack me open. The painful relationships, the horrible bosses, the shitty life circumstances, the substance abuse, not my own and others, my codependencies, all of this stuff. When I really looked at my life, the truth, the resonant truth in my life was always going to be there. But the more closed off and the more walled I was, the more asleep to that truth I was, the more life had to get hard in hopes that maybe one day it would be hard enough to wake me up. When I first started my personal journey of self-development, it was on the back end of a nervous breakdown, as many of us have experienced, right? This path usually begins at some pinnacle defining moment where you're like, it's either do or die. And for me, it was waking up in a hospital and a psychologist telling me that you're not crazy. The very fact that you think you're crazy is enough evidence that you're not. And in that moment, realizing, well, if I'm not medically crazy, then there's something going on inside me that I need to start looking at. That was the beginning of my awakening. I'm still waking up, baby. But that was the very beginning. And from 2016 onward, I started diving into personal development. But let me tell you, no one gaslights them harder than someone who's already on the fucking path. I would use teachings from the different modalities that I was studying and the different philosophies and the different programs that I was attending. I would use those teachings against myself because I had already calibrated to this idea that if it wasn't hard, it wasn't real. If I didn't gruel through something, then I wouldn't ever achieve what it is that I wanted to achieve. So I would put myself in the most painful situations, abusive relationships, wildly flawed power dynamics, low paying jobs. I would make all of these decisions because there was something inside me that said, if I make it through this hard thing, then I'm worthy. If I navigate all of these problems, then I've done it right. But consider how hard life has to get you to soften in those places, to get you to open, to get you to surrender to the truth that's inside of you. Your relationships will get more painful because you're not open. You're not receptive. You are unwilling to hear the truth that lives inside your bones for whatever reason. And so you'll find teachings to gaslight yourself with to keep you closed, but give this facade and this perception that maybe if you do it right, you'll have the life that you want. So I'm going to give you a real example here. When I first started waking up to some of my unconscious patterns, to some of the darker stuff in my life, right? As you do when you go through your dark night of the soul. I entered this program, which I won't mention because it's a great program for what it does, but I entered this program and I started seeing someone. And because I was in the work of like, let's look at my shit and let's make sure I'm showing up as honestly and authentically as I possibly can, I started using these teachings to abuse myself. Oh, if he's still doing that, that means I wasn't open enough. If he's still abusing drugs, that means I didn't communicate well enough. If he's still doing this, it was this way of I needed to control myself. And if I wasn't controlling myself in the right way, then obviously this nasty negative thing would happen. When the truth is if I actually opened and surrendered to the truth would have been that he wasn't the guy for me. But instead, I used those teachings against myself. I got harder on myself, and I put my physical body into a place of actually breaking out into hives because I was unwilling to open to the truth that this man was not for me. There's nothing wrong with the guy, right? It's just not for me. And so in that place of like, I'm doing the work, I'm trying to get things done. It's like, yeah, but are you actually diving deeper into what's true? Or are you using those teachings against yourself so that you never actually have to open to the truth, where you can actually still continue to control your life, where you can still face these hard things because there's a wiring inside of you that says it has to be hard for it to be worth it. But here's the crazy thing. It doesn't even have to go into the situations in your life, because all we have to do is actually look at how you wake up in the morning. That is going to tell me everything that we need to know from where you are right now is how do you wake up in the morning? Because if it is fighting, if you are battling an alarm system, because quite literally you choose trauma when you go to bed and you set a 6 a.m. alarm so that you could be jolted awake, tells me that you are requiring external force to have your awakening. If you are physically aware that your body is waking up, but you're mentally telling yourself it's not time, and you force yourself to stay asleep, not opening your eyes, and you force yourself to stay in bed, and then when you wake up, you're overtired and you have no energy for anything. That tells me that you are questioning your own divine timing, making it harder on yourself. See, how you wake up in the morning is reflective of your awakening to life. Are you choosing external force to have you awaken? Are you choosing to fight your timing? Are you questioning the divine passage of human existence because for whatever reason, you think your mind knows it all? You're still asleep. So the act of waking up is to become more aware, to become totally present to how your life is meant to unfold. It is an art form. And fuck, is it beautiful? Because when you actually decide to let yourself take the paintbrush and say, well, how do I want to create in this life? What you'll realize is that this force and this pressure and this drive to do and do and do isn't how you want to paint. Your spiritual path is not something for you to do. It's something for you to surrender into, to open to receive. It is not something you have to go prove yourself for. Your spiritual path, your personal growth, all you have to do is be, because it's in the being of where you are that you will naturally wake up to things that you were not present to. It is at the deep surrender into the present moment that you will be aware of what needs to happen when, because you will be in relationship with your own timing. See, my lineage talks about this concept called staying past the peak, which means that we all have these moments, right? Where you're in a conversation with someone and they're like, oh, I think I've stayed beyond my welcome. Right? You can feel it. There's like an energetic shift, but it happens in all things, right? It happens in you forcing yourself to drink a whole cup of coffee. It happens in a conversation, happens in a live stream. It's like the peak is where anything beyond this moment is extra and unnecessary, right? But I would do that to myself in all situations. I would stay in relationships past their peak. I would stay in jobs past their peak. I would stay in conversations past their peak because there was a part of me that was unwilling to trust that the energy was guiding me, that the truth inside of me, I always kept closing because I was like, no, there's no way that right now is the appropriate time to leave. There's no way that like right now I should be leaving this relationship, even though it's dangerous, toxic, it's bringing out my worst qualities. I don't really like my life right now. I'm not going to trust that guidance. I'm not going to trust the energy inside my body. I'm not even going to trust my own essence because I'm going to demonize it and take it down and try to shut it down entirely by staying asleep to who I am. This is why the awakening journey for everyone is radically uncomfortable, because when we're asleep, we create false lives. When we're asleep, we create dreams and ambitions that are totally not in resonance with who we actually are. We have visions of our ideal selves, even though we don't want to be the person who shows up for that. And then waking up feels mean, feels aggressive, because it actually shows you all the places where your fantasy is not in alignment with the truth within you, where all of those dreams you created while you were asleep walking in the world aren't true for you. And then you've got to say, well, I can either go back to a sleeping state, continue the job I don't want, continue the relationships that are unfulfilling, continue the way that I'm relating to my family and dismissing them, continue all of my bullshit that happens while I am not awake, or I can face the fact that once I'm awake, I will not be able to continue that. That once I'm awake, that the fantastical dreams that I've created for myself cannot be sustained. They're the dreams you have at night when you sleep. Don't happen in real life. There aren't unicorns that are flying around the sky. There aren't pillow clouds that you can jump through. The dream stops. And then you wake up and you're like, well, fuck, I want that dream to keep continuing. And then you have to face all of your connections to the reason why you hate truth and you hate life. And so then you go and you create based on the dream. But here's the thing I want you to know is that truth will always leak through. So it doesn't matter when, but that dream will combust and you'll blame truth for doing it. But truth comes in to wake you up to what's unconscious, to wake you up to what is actually real for your life. And it is your choice to determine how you receive it. Are you more attached to the dream and fulfilling the dreams that you have, whether they're false or not? Or are you more committed to having the life that is actually in alignment for you? Because if you're committed to that alignment, then you turn towards the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it is for your ego. You will feel the resonance in your body of like, I don't care how uncomfortable this reality is, I have to do it. And I'm going to give you my own real example here. There was a moment when I was in a relationship with someone where it was a very untrue relationship in every sense. But when I finally opened to truth, I had to face my own reality of how, this relationship brought out all of my toxicity. This relationship brought out all of the things that I was not skilled at. And I wasn't being the kind of woman to develop those skills. I wasn't being the kind of woman to clear out her own toxicity. And so the truth was, I needed to end that relationship until I could be a woman to show up to that kind of relationship. Now, the ultimate truth is that I will never be that kind of woman. But it wasn't until I left it, feeling the truth within my body, that needed to happen, that I could open to a totally different life. See, in that moment, I had just finished a 4-hour fight with him, screaming at each other. One of the most volatile relationships I've ever had. And I was driving down the highway when all of a sudden I felt this drop in my body that he was a universal lesson of learning to leave on time. I didn't leave because I was gaslighting myself into staying. I was trying to convince myself that if I was enlightened, if I was awake, that this relationship would work out. But that's actually not what spirituality is at all. It's not what personal growth is at all. It's about being with the present reality. It's being with what's real. It's getting so real with what's real that you can't force yourself into creating false living. Staying in that relationship would have been creating a false living. There's parts of my expression that wouldn't have been allowed. There would have been parts of my curiosities not allowed. There was places that I had to bite my own tongue. I would have to be someone I wasn't to maintain it. See, here's the thing. When you open, when you surrender, when you completely become receptive to life, you will be guided to places where you get to learn how to be your fullest self. No shame, no contortion. But all of that happens when you are willing to release everything that you are attached to when you are asleep. The career, the job, the man, the friends, the family, whatever. You have to release your attachments and ideas, your fantasies and dreams about what it would mean if you were different, and open and become awake to who you are, to become awake to all of the nasty, nightmarish things that happen when you're not paying attention, and to keep shining a light on them. And you keep doing it every single day for the rest of your bloody life. That's what makes it art, is that it won't be the same stroke twice. It'll be a different guy. It'll be a different job. It'll be a different friendship. It'll be different every time. And every time truth will come in to give you the stroke to say, wake up here. Wake up now. Don't force me to come in and force you into submission so you wake up. It'll be a gentle whisper, an invitation for you to wake up to yourself. And you will have to see how much you fight it and you refuse to see who you are because you're attached to the dream you keep living. And you'll also have to see where you force truth to come in and beat you through all of the nightmares that you have just as much. So what the fuck are you supposed to do about that? Well, you slow down and you pay attention to these subtle things that happen in life, these really nuanced adjustments that happen, and you pay attention to them. You pay attention to how you feel your body ready to be woken up, and you pay attention to where you want to shut it down. You feel how your body says, it's still too early, but you trust that you can wake up anyway. Supple is the journey of feeling that subtlety of truth within you, where it doesn't have to come in with like a bat out of hell screaming and yelling. And now you have an explosive blow up and you have this addictive pattern and you have all of this volatility to come in and shake you and break you until you finally open. But instead, the subtlety of wait, I can open here. Maybe I can't open all the way because I can only open as far as I actually do, but I can open here and I can hear the truth. I can feel the truth. And I may have to do something uncomfortable like leave. I may have to do something uncomfortable like stay. I may have to do something uncomfortable that I'm unfamiliar with. But now that I'm awake to it, that I'm present to what I hear, I'm present to what I feel, I can make a conscious decision rather than the unconscious one that I make when I'm asleep and unpresent to it. Your wake up, your coming into consciousness, your self-awareness on the macro scale depends on how you choose to participate in it. And you will either choose to participate like wake up is painful and that it's hard and it's grueling, or you will lean back and you will say it is how it is. that I don't need to grip around things, because it's the gripping that makes it hard. It's the rigidity that makes it hard. It's the stiffness that makes it hard. It is the control that makes awakening hard. But when you let it all go, when you drop into your own body and you just lie out in the sun of life, you'll realize there's nothing for you to do. You will realize that there is nothing that you need to accomplish to wake up. Then once you are, the world is your oyster. Once you are present to all of the things you do to make life hard, all of the things that you deny, that you push away, that you ignore, that make life hard, you'll realize that it was you the whole time, that you can be supple. And in being supple, life gets softer. See, life is not about it being easy. It's about being easy with life. Life can be how it is. Life can be as wild, as chaotic, as insane, as weird as it is, and that it doesn't impact you. The things that are naturally out of your control do not move you from your own center, that do not distort your own essence, that do not shift who you are at the most natural, deep level that life can be, however it is, and you are still in your center, that you flow with it, that you move with it, that you dance with it, that nothing outside of you needs your control. Now, to also say that, there is a place where you need to be in relationship with that energy too. So the way that I experience supple in general, it's this amoeba effect. It's, I don't need to control what's outside of me, but I need to have complete approval for what is inside of me. The approval of who you are is the approval of your essence. And let me tell you, that shit ain't fun. If you've been around a while, you know that my essence is very mossy. It's very lush. It's very deep. It's saturated and fluid. But to the part of me that was not aware to that, the part of me that was not awake to that frequency that lived inside of me this whole bloody time, it was very confronting. It was very confronting to be a mossy woman when, while I was asleep, I was creating a fiery ass life. But see, when we become supple, it's about softening to our own truth, to the truth that lives within your body. I don't need to contort my mossy ass self to be more fiery. To truly wake up to who you are means to not fucking fight it, to totally allow yourself to do it softer, to have more approval, to have more grace, to have yourself just see things for what they are, to see life for who it is, all of it, and not have it shake you. One of the things I keep saying is that internal security has nothing to do with being without insecurities. It means that when you face an insecurity, that you're not shaken by it. That is your wake up. When you face an insecurity, you're being asked to wake up. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to say another hour, please. Let me hit snooze on my spiritual process. But you certainly don't need life to get any harder to wake you up like it's an alarm clock. Yeah? So let me know if this is landing so far. Because if it is, if there's things that are getting knocked around, if you're trying to look at, well, where am I awake in my life and where am I still asleep? Well, the good chances is that the places that you're still asleep are the places you are unwilling to evolve. The places that you feel yourself tighten around, get rigid around, get stiff around. Those are the places that you're still sleeping. Now, we don't need to force our awakening around them. We don't need to deny that we need to wake up, but we are in the process of waking. Can we soften? See, this journey is about that middle place. It's about the everything and nothing. It is. I'm not quite awake, but I'm not entirely asleep. I'm in that spot where I'm aware that I'm waking up, and I can either make this hard on myself or I can make it. And how you choose to be in that void, to be in that interspace, in that bardo, is going to color how you experience your own aliveness. Again, let's go back to you actually waking up this morning. If it was an alarm that woke you up, it's a good chance that it took a lot of work before you could actually surrender and be open to life a couple hours later. If you hit the snooze on waking up, it's a good chance it took a lot of work for you to actually feel like you're awake a couple hours later. But when you slow down and you pay attention to the quality of your wake up, the texture of it, the way that you feel in the process of becoming more alert, in that space, there is no time lost. You wake up as a divine timing. You move through life exactly at the right time, that everything has its perfect beat and rhythm and harmonic. And it all begins with how you're choosing to wake up, whether it's from your bed or from your unconscious patterns. That rule goes across. So if this speaks to you, I'm going to invite you to join me in Supple. But it's really this journey of like, can you be in your body and feel that subtlety? Because that subtlety is where truth will whisper to you before it needs to get loud like an alarm. And how do you treat that whisper? Do you ignore it? Do you blow past it? Or do you actually turn towards it and open so you could hear it clearer? take action when it's ready to do it? How do you take care of your body in the process of your spiritual process? How do you take care of yourself when you are becoming more aware of truths that you were not aware of before? How do you live? How do you allow yourself to live? Because even in teaching this work, I am opening more, I am softening more, I'm becoming more supple. I am learning how to be more generous and spaciousness with my own awakening, of giving myself more in the process of becoming conscious. I don't need to have this perfect at all, but I do need to be present to it. So if you're feeling called, what you're going to do is you're going to send me a message and you're going to share your desire for supple. And we're going to talk about the journey and see if it's actually right for where you are. The next round, our first welcome call is on April 2nd. The calls always happen on a Sunday. So hopefully you don't work Sundays. And I think that's about it. I think that's all I want to share with you guys. The art of waking up is nothing more than actually letting the strokes be different every single time and not trying to control it. So to give yourself more space, more grace, more honesty, without all the rigidity that you think you need to have. Rigidity is only required if you want to stay unconscious, if you want to stay asleep. That's where the tightness comes in. So I'll leave you there. Thank you so much for joining me live, and I look forward to seeing you.